Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, this whole banking collapse crisis stuff, the media, the Treasury, the Federal Reserve, the White House, all of them are trying to convince you that it's not that big a deal. I mean, okay, so we've had three of the just about biggest banks ever to fail in American history have failed in the last 6 weeks or so. It's really not that big a deal. I mean, it's hundreds of billions of dollars, but it's not that big of a deal, folks. I mean, that's pretty much it. There could be some more instability, but don't worry about it. That's the message that they're trying to spin, I think, because they don't want you to panic. I suspect, and I'm certainly no expert on this at all, I suspect that they're trying to slow down the process a little bit longer. They're still tweaking out their CBDC stuff. They're waiting for the right moment for this all to happen. But I'm pretty confident in saying that there is more yet to come. There's still several banks that are just behind these recent banks that's failed that are, kind of going down that same path. They've already lost 60+% of their value over the past year in just the last few weeks, really. If you go back to the 1st of March till now, you can see that there are several banks that have lost 50, 60 or more percent of their value. And a lot of people are wondering, are these some of the ones that are coming up next? We're reaching our debt ceiling, Janet Yellen said yesterday that it's very likely that the country will run out of money and can't pay its debts by June 1st. That's less than a month away. And like I also said yesterday, I suspect we're going to see some quite astonishing gerrymandering and little deals being made out on Congress. And I'm sure we won't even know all of them to try to get a debt ceiling limit bill passed to increase it. And, there's other countries that are starting to kind of waver in their support of the U.S. dollar for international trade, even some that are very much allies. South Korea is now in talks with Indonesia, at least their central banks are, and coming up with deals and ways to use local currencies in trade deals. And so they're, again, stepping away from the U.S. dollar. We're watching more and more of this happen because we are watching a U.S. dollar collapse. Will it completely collapse down to nothing? It's possible. I mean, that's certainly, I think, within the realm of possibility, but I don't know that that's necessarily how it'll happen. I've said this before. I think it's probably a pretty decent analogy. If some of you remember that Indiana Jones movie, and honestly, I can't remember which one it was, but the famous scene where there's this little golden statue, on this pedestal thing, and he knows that it's pressure sensitive, so he has a bag of sand, and he's trying to roll that bag of sand in so he can remove the artifact so it doesn't set off the pressure thing and cause all the doom and gloom to happen to him. I suspect that's something that they're trying to do. They're trying to do this quick little, let's try to shift that CBDC over to the U.S. dollar side. That way, it's just this quick transition. Most people are already using a digital form of currency already, in their debit cards and their little phone apps and stuff. Hardly anyone uses actual currency anymore. And maybe if we make this little transition, make it smooth, and they won't notice it too much. I suspect that's probably something that they're trying to do. But it could go the other way. They could just let it completely collapse and America enter the age of Venezuelan-style economics. It's possible, especially when you factor in the war stuff. China is come out with some new doctrine or new ruling on conscription because they are increasing the size of their military with an anticipation of war with Taiwan and then probably the United States. We're seeing increase in activity over in Russia and Ukraine. Something's going on there. I mean, there's video of Russia striking a site inside Ukraine, and there's not been a whole lot of media coverage of it, but there is a video of it, and it's quite. It's pretty obvious that it wasn't just a little rocket attack. I mean, the thing almost looks like a tactical nuke went off. It's a pretty amazing explosion, and I'm no expert in that, so I'm not going to speculate really what it is. But there's definitely a lot of stuff going on, and Americans are just kind of, I don't know. I don't know if we're numb to it. Maybe not you and I, but the average American, if they've become numb to it. They're all into what's going on in Hollywood and what's going on between the political races and what's going on with the latest guy that's dressing up like a girl, or some silly ridiculousness of the Kardashians, or even if they're still relevant now or not. That's what's happening in America, and I think that's being very purposefully done. They want to keep you distracted, folks. They don't want you to know that the economy's collapsing, that the dollar's collapsing, that we're very much on the brink of World War III. I mean, a very much a global war. A war that will be very destructive, not just in a physical casualty, infrastructure sense, but a war that will be destructive when it comes to economics and the way of life that Americans have kind of come to get used to. It's all going to change, and that's why we have to keep getting ready. It's talking to a friend just a few days ago, and we've talked about this thing before, so this wasn't a brand new conversation, but it came up again, of how our focus is recently. I mean, it's always this way, but definitely more profound. Let's put it that way. Our focus recently has really been to put as much energy, effort, money, everything that we can into getting ourselves, our family, our homesteads, where we're at, as prepared as possible. All the little, the little honeydew lists and stuff that we all have that, we're going to get to that, right? We're going to get to that one. We're going to get that fixed. Trying to get as much of it done as we possibly can, getting infrastructure and the different things that we need to do to make us more self-sufficient has become a very high priority for a lot of people. Food production, very high priority. Our goal this year when it comes to food production is to just produce as much as we possibly can. We're really trying hard and doing some things to kind of push it as much as possible, just to see how much food we can produce. And I've told my wife, I said, even if we produce, if we end up producing more food than we can really handle, even when it comes to preserving the food, freezing it, drying it, canning it, all the different things, I have no problem just giving it away. We have enough people in our community that we could give it away. So I want to, as a goal, just to see how much we can produce this year. And so that's something we're doing, expanding gardens, improving the soil as much as possible, doing different things to just see how much we can produce, because we need to know that. We need to know how much we can produce, or if we need to expand things even bigger, because the day may be coming sooner than you think, that you're pretty much going to survive off of what you produce. And I'm a strong believer, based on experience and what I have learned, that it takes a lot more than you think to produce enough food to survive off of. We have been doing other things, and it's not just us. I know other people, because they tell me. Really getting serious about security issues and preparations for that, coming up with plans, doing drills, training the family on what to do if things get crazy enough that danger becomes more likely in your area. Because danger is becoming more likely in a lot of areas in this country. It's just spreading like a virus. A lot of families, including ours, that we're revisiting this idea of having to be locked down. in our own, like on our own, on our property, because of whatever could happen. How would we cope and handle just never leaving again, or at least not for a very long time? And kind of simulating that. One of the things that we've done over the last month or so is pushed ourselves to not leave the property as much as possible, to not go to the grocery store. We've gone once in the last month, and if we need something in between now and then, we just figure out a different way. And so it's something that we're pushing ourselves to do, and to cut back and to lean up our spending so that we can turn our spending into areas that are in areas of things that are more sustainable, things that we need more, and not so much the things that we enjoy necessarily, or the extras. This is probably a pretty good idea for most of you, to start adjusting your lives. If nothing else, look at it as a form of training. You're adjusting your spending, you're adjusting your daily habits, you're adjusting the things that you're doing, the productivity around, the types of productivity that you're focusing on in your life, in your property, in your homesteads, so that you can become more prepared, because you see the seriousness of things. And that's where a lot of us are right now, because looking at all of this, banking collapses and countries walking away from the U.S. dollar more and more. I mean, that one I honestly feel is pretty rapid. Just in the last few weeks, 3-4 weeks, there have been numerous countries completely walk away, say they are interested in walking away, or partially walking away. I don't know what the numbers would be right now, but I suspect it's very measurable differences of how much of the world has stopped using the U.S. dollar just over the last 4 weeks or so, because of the amount of reports on that. And then, of course, the violence, whether it be domestic violence between with things happening here in the United States on the streets, or violence when it comes to World War III and things of that nature. We're seeing a daily buildup, and you need to be getting focused on building up your property as a fortress, as much as you possibly can. And I know that's different for everyone, but as much as you possibly can, focus on how you can make your place as sustainable as possible. Do you need to adjust the type of animals that you're raising? Ones that may not produce as much, they may not be as friendly maybe, but yet they're more sustainable. The same way with food. Do you need to be planting more perennial foods, like your apple trees and your pear trees and other plants that just come up on their own and they can produce a lot? Working on security. Have you really paid a lot of attention to that, and how you can, again, build those walls around your property and your family? And then one of the big important ones that I talk about often is working with others, your tribe. How are things going with your tribe? Are you planning stuff? Are you meeting regularly? Are you doing some kind of drills and working on things together, and coming up with plans of how you can be beneficial to each other even more? You need to be doing this, folks, because all of this stuff that's happening, the craziness, it's getting worse. It's certainly not going away. If at anything, people are just becoming more accustomed to it. They're becoming more desensitized by it. But it's certainly not lessening in its intensity. It's actually getting worse. And we have to continue to prepare because of that very reason. It's getting worse. So keep getting your houses in order. I just want to remind you also that this afternoon I'll be releasing my interview with Dr. Ron Paul right here on YouTube and over on Rumble. Should come out around 5 p.m. tonight, so certainly be watching for that. I'm excited. It's not going to be a long video, but still, hopefully we can get some insights into Dr. Ron Paul on what he thinks is going on and maybe even how we should prepare ourselves for it. Folks, get your houses in order and prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.